What's going on, guys, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we have Barrell Bourbon. This is the 2021 release. They put out a new one of these every year. This is the New Year release. That's what it's called. Cask strength, coming in at 113.9 proof. But everybody knows before we get started on any of that, time for the traditional sip. Definitely hot. So this is the Barrell Bourbon. This is 113.9 proof, like I mentioned, the New Year 2021 release, bottle number 850. I don't know how many they put out, but they are all limited releases. Now, this comes from a 5, 9, 10, and 11-year-old bourbon. So basically, Barrell is just doing the blending process on this because they get this sourced from pretty much everywhere. They've got Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Colorado, Wyoming. Did I say Tennessee? Yes, all of those. New York as well, I believe, is in there. So Barrell Bourbon basically sourcing their bourbons from everywhere, bringing them into the warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky, where they're taking care of the blending process on this. We'll get a little bit more into Barrell Bourbon later. But as for this one, you know the rules: price, taste, drinkability. We're going to rank this and see where it belongs. First thing, 113.9 proof. It's going to have a little bit of a kick behind it. We all know that. If you're not looking for a little bit of an ethanol kick, don't drink 113.9 proof bourbon. You get a little bit of an alcohol kick off of the nose here as well. But I don't hate it. It actually isn't the worst of the ethanol kicks, especially coming in almost 115 proof. We're just going to call it 115 for the rest of the time here. Make it a little bit easier than 113.9. So I'm expecting an ethanol kick. I don't know a mash bill on this, and when they're blending, well, I don't even know how many bourbons, 8, 9, 10 bourbons, who knows. At different ages, I'm not going to do the math, even if they did give me the mash bill process on each one of the bourbons that went into it. But it appears to me that this would be somewhere in a high rye mash bill, maybe a 15 to 20% rye after everything's broken down. Just because it does really have a pretty good rye kick to this, but we'll get into that on taste. So I think the rye kick is giving it a little bit more heat than it deserves straight off the ethanol. But for 113.9, 115 proof, it's not too bad at all. Let's take one more sip, and then we'll give this a score on drinkability. Yeah, this is actually pretty exceptional when you talk about 113.9 proof. I don't hate anything as far as the ethanol kick comes on this. It is a little bit, it is there, but it's not overpowering, and the flavors that open up on this, because it's cask strength, because it's coming in at that proof, really they shine through. So I'm glad that they don't water this one down. We're going to give this like an 8.6 when it comes to drinkability. Obviously, I can't give it too great of a score because it does have a pretty good ethanol kick, but keeping in mind that it's almost 115 proof, we'll give it the 8.6 that I think it deserves. So up next, we're going to get a taste on this, and taste on this is where things get a little bit interesting. I'm going to go over my flavor profiles, and then I'm going to tell you what the website says I'm supposed to be tasting, because things get a little bit wild. As for me, I'm getting a pretty good dark fruit note, very like sweet at the beginning here. Then it works its way into that rye spice, which is very prevalent. You get that clove, you get that black pepper, and then it really tapers off into a very slight oak/tobacco flavor. There's a lot going on in this bottle. Every time you sip it, it's something new, if you ask me. When you're combining 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I don't even know how many bourbons at such different age. You don't know the blending processes. We don't know the mash bills that go into all of these. So everything that you're getting in this is going to be a different type of thing. But let's go over what they think you should be drinking, because it's quite interesting. So I'm going to read this for you straight off the website. This says ample variety of primary fruit flavors, which I agree with. It's got a fruity, sweet note to start. This is the nose, by the way. Among them, gooseberry. Now, I've never had gooseberry. I don't even know what gooseberry is, to be quite honest with you. Sounds like something out of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Snozberries? Who ever heard of a snozberry?
Next, they say apple, watermelon rind, and peach. Now, apple, okay, I can kind of see apple. Watermelon rind, I don't know if I've ever smelled a watermelon rind to know what it is, but peach is also okay. I can understand where people get peach. I don't get peach off the nose, at least not right away with this. The oak is fresh but quite gentle. I agree with that. It's a very easy, soothing, light oak flavor. Smelling of vanilla and toasted coconut. Another one of those things like toasted coconut. I hate coconut. Like, I can't even smell coconut or else I lose it. But usually I can taste it immediately because I do hate it. I don't get a lot of toasted coconut in this personally. And then the last part is sawdust. Now, I've never thought about sawdust as far as like a smelling note goes for all of this. But if you've ever been inside like a wood shop or anything like that, you definitely know what that sawdust flavor nosing note is. And it's interesting, and I do think I get that when you smell this. So it's interesting that I can add that to the arsenal of things. Sawdust being one of those, especially in a bourbon, you get that woody sawdust flavor. So that's interesting. Corn lends a strong creamy foundation of toasted almond, lemon curd, and baguette. Again, three things. Toasted almond, sure. Lemon curd? No chance. Baguette, like you're smelling like a piece of bread. Like they're so hard, anyway. Cilantro and wintergreen hint at some light rye spice. I think it's a little bit more than a light rye spice, personally. You definitely, I mean, maybe on the nose it's light. It definitely doesn't open up into too much of the rye spice on the nose. Then we move over into the palate. Despite the strength and minimal tannin, sweetness lends a clear weight to the palate. It opens fresh and grassy, which I agree. It definitely has a floral note to it. It almost feels like a spring day when you walk outside. And then it moves on to Yorkshire pudding with mushy peas. Now, I've never had Yorkshire pudding. I've had regular pudding. Mushy peas, I don't know, like maybe like what you would feed to a baby. But I'm not getting Yorkshire pudding or mushy peas on this. And then it says end time, which again is one of those herbs, spices we can probably pick up in the rye on this. As it sits on the palate, juicy fruits emerge, notably persimmon, raisin, and black tea with lemon. Okay, those are all okay. And then the finish is an initial burst of minerals, limestone, flint, and steel on the finish. Why would you want your bourbon to taste like steel? I'm pretty sure that's the taste that you get like right before you have a stroke. These give way to a potpourri of herbs and spices. I agree with that. Mint and clove. It definitely has a little bit of a mint to it. But as for this write-up, that's detailed to say the least. I don't know if I pick up watermelon rind. I don't know if I pick up steel. But that's what they're telling you. That's what they're telling you or me that I should be tasting. So let me know if you taste those flavors, if you've ever had this. Personally, I don't get a lot of that out of this. It still tastes delicious, don't get me wrong. It's just kind of a crazy write-up. As for all that, though, we got to give this a score on taste. And I think it deserves a pretty good score. It's very good. It's very balanced. There's nothing overwhelming. The oak is very light. The rye is very heavy. 113.9 proof. We really don't get a lot of ethanol kick on this. So I'm going to give this like an 8.8 when it comes to taste on this. And as you all know, last but certainly not least, that's going to get us into price on this. And the price on this is a little steep if you ask me. This is coming in at $80. Now, I understand it's a cask strength. It's 9, 10, and 11-year bourbon. But there's also a 5-year in here, and we don't know what makes up what. It doesn't tell us how much of this is a 5-year-old bourbon. It doesn't tell us how much of it is the 10-year-old bourbon. I'm assuming off of the taste and the profile as well as I guess it's got a pretty good color to it. Maybe it's a pretty good mixture of all of that, especially coming from 8 or 9 different distilleries sourced from all around the country because it can't be around the world. This is a tough ask at $80. I don't know what about it that screams to me that it shouldn't be $80 because it's a decent bourbon. It's a pretty good bourbon. You already seen the scores on drinkability and taste. But at the same time, $80 is a lot to ask for, especially with all of the bourbons out there that you can get for a lot cheaper than that. They're a newer company, so I think that what they're trying to do is something new, which we're going to get into on our Bourbon Bomb of the Week. But for $80, I don't know if I would buy the next one. I'm glad I got this one. I'm glad I got to experience it. Barrell has definitely been making its way around the country, and people are picking up on it. Fred Minnick gave it an award. It's got awards all over all of their bottles. I don't know if this one has their award on it or not. It does not. But you can see the awards on a lot of their other bottles. So they're putting out good products, but at $80, I understand they've got to source it all, they've got to blend it all, they've got to taste it all to make sure that they're blending it correctly. So that is definitely an expensive process, but at the same time, me, the consumer, spending $80 on a bottle of bourbon is a lot of money. So I'm going to give it like a 7.2 when it comes to price. I just don't think it deserves to be $80, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they're charging that. I'm glad I got my hands on a bottle of it. If you say it for $80, I wouldn't hate you for picking it up, but take that with a grain of salt. Cheers. So while I add these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about Barrell Distillery. So for this week, week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to go over Barrell Bourbon, and I guess when I say Barrell Distillery, I don't really mean that, because they're not distilling any of their product. They're sourcing all of it. They're sourcing all of the barrels. They're bringing them from all over the country, as you can see right here on the bottle. Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, New York, Texas, Wyoming, Colorado, all in this bottle right here. So they're bringing in stuff from all over the country, and what they're doing is blending and bottling it. So they have master blenders rather than master distillers, and they're putting out different products. And the interesting thing that they're doing is they're not just picking your traditional barrels from MGP, they're actually going out to companies that are making bourbon and making whiskey in a way that not everybody is doing it. So they're getting product that's testing the limits as far as aging, testing the limits as far as environmental factors, different distilling processes. They're bringing them all in, and the coolest part about Barrell is they're doing it all at cask strength. They're not watering down any of this product. They really want you to enjoy what's coming out of the barrel, and that's why it's called Barrell Bourbon, because that's exactly what you're getting, what's coming out of the barrel. They're taking that, they're blending it, they're making it their own, and they're putting out different products, all limited releases, all at cask strength. Probably why they're charging a little bit of a premium for this, which I understand and we talked about during price. I like what the company's doing. I like that they're trying new things, and I like that they're not just your traditional bourbon blending company. They're putting out new products all the time, so make sure you check out Barrell and grab a bottle if you haven't already. Cheers. So that's what Barrell Bourbon's doing. They're putting out cask strength product, limited releases. The blending process is absolutely fantastic. The fact that they're bringing in stuff from all over the country into one central location and blending it themselves, who knows, maybe even one day they'll start putting out their own product and distilling whiskey, so that way they can get their own 100% barrel bourbon themselves. But for this one, we're going to give it an 8.20, not an awful spot for it if you ask me. If they bring down that price point just a little bit, I really think they could work their way into the top 10 or even into the top 5. But an 8.20 is where we're going to leave it. Cheers to them. So there you have it, guys. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Every Tuesday, we drop an image of the bourbon that we're going to review, so you can go on and try and guess the score that you think I'm going to give it. If you guess closest, you're going to get shout out on the channel as well as entered in a monthly drawing. So again, Bourbon of the Week on Instagram. And scroll down, hit that Patreon link, hit that Discord link. Come chat with us, see what you're drinking on tonight. In the meantime, stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all.